You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Hey guys, welcome back. Another episode of the Triple Double Podcast. My name is Corey Albertson of Triple Double Prospects. We've got Jason Moore of 270 Hoops, and we've got everyone's favorite guest, the veteran, the big ticket. We got Chaz Wolfe, Prep Scouting LLC, Twitter at High Major Scoop. Chaz, what's the word?
Chaz Wolfe, I am who I am. That's a little OBJ, Monday Night Football for you.
Well, I know you've been in celebration mode ever since the weekend. Saw you at the 270 Hoops Fall League, but then the big news came down, which is that former Triple Double Prospects associate Jonathan JB from the E. Bergen announced over the weekend that he has been enshrined in the Semi-Professional Baseball Hall of Fame. Do you want to give a shout out to JB?
JB, congratulations. Hopefully I can be there for the ribbon cutting. If not, I got a guy by the name of John Montanez down in Huntington, West Virginia that will do the Bull Durham jersey framing work for you if you want to put that up in your grandma's house. But, congratulations on the 247 batting average, the 3 home runs, and the 17 RBIs, man. Good looking out.
Good looking out, JB. So before we get into any basketball, man, I wanted to talk to you. Just got back from Vegas and wanted to share my good fortune with you. Went out there with a bunch of buddies. Played a lot of cards. Did a lot.
Humble brag. Keep going.
No. The good fortune is not to do with winning and gambling, because some of that went my way and some of it didn't. But this part did. We played credit card roulette 6 times with 6 people. So for those who don't know, credit card roulette is when you go to dinner and you hand the waitress all 6 of your credit cards, and she shuffles them and picks one at a time until there's one left, and that person pays for the entire meal. And while I had my ups and downs gambling, I did not lose any credit card roulettes, so I got 6 free meals in Las Vegas.
I mean, hopefully, you ate your ass off at the most expensive ones that you didn't get,
Yeah, the thing is, you don't know. I mean, you don't know until the end of the meal. So you've got to. It's all about risk management. What are you willing to go to war for?
Yeah, I mean, what out of the six? Credit card roulette meals. What were the top 3? Top 3 meals. Where'd you go?
I'd say the top 3 meals it's a good question. And the number 1 would be Gordon Ramsay Steakhouse at Paris. Never been there before, and did a little research with the server, the hostess, and she has been yelled at by Gordon Ramsay before. So she is an official Gordon Ramsay employee. She had a little incident with the big guy when they were filming, and she walked in front of the camera. But that was tremendous. Probably the best meal I've ever had in Vegas. Javier's in Aria, we've talked about on the podcast before, a tremendous Mexican place. And man, after that, I don't know. There's a lot of good spots, but those are the 2 that really stood out for me.
Inside Gordon Ramsay, did you sit downstairs or upstairs?
We sat upstairs.
I'll tell you what, that's a heck of a meal. Then that's a 5-star, Yelp review. That's a high level Wellington Wagyu steak they have out there at the old Paris.
Yeah, my one buddy went for the strategy of there was a bachelorette party across the room, and he ordered him a couple desserts on the group tab, and tried to work the conversation from there. So that just made the credit card roulette experience all the more painful when he ultimately lost. So, and he was live on Snapchat, which I thought was super lame. So him losing is just really the highlight of my trip.
Well, you can document it now. So now you have it all, to look back on.
Absolutely. So, Next thing, we'll stop. We'll stop doing the Vegas talk. We have a lot of fun on this podcast, but when you come on, but I did want to give you the floor to be as serious or as fun and reminiscent as you want to. Northeast Ohio basketball, or maybe you might even say all of Ohio basketball, lost a legend in the last, I don't know, week or two. And why don't you go ahead and address that?
Oh, I just had worldwide Fabiano. He passed away about a week or two ago. He had some complications, and he was 66 years old, basketball aficionado. He's just one of those characters that, when we're in the gym as much as we are, and especially, in Ohio, he wasn't a guy that you would see it flying to the hoop or anywhere like that, but he would be in Columbus. He would be in Cleveland. He lived in New Philly, Dover, but he was a guy that kind of John Stovall introduced me to about 10 years ago, and he was just a basketball, just a basketball groupie, a basketball junkie, and he's just one of those guys that you look forward to, you run into at different places, and it wasn't like he was ever giving you an unbelievable review or recap, but his vision and his liking of the game of basketball and the way that he looked at the game, he could go watch something that, as Kurt Stubbs wouldn't look out his window for, or watch kids play in his backyard for. So, there's always those people that you run into. I mean, it's like, it's the people that I have gotten to know. That are in Philly or in DC or other parts of the country that I don't care where you are, and those guys in Cincinnati, if it's Sticky Fingers or this guy or that guy, or, the people in Kentucky. But they're just people that, you look forward to seeing when you're out on the road. They're kind of like your basketball family, and they're just people that get you through a bad, JV overtime game. They've always got somehow, some way, they make it, they lift your spirits in a way because they're amusing in their own way, and then they always make you feel more valuable than what you are because they're really interested in what you know, and half the time what we know isn't worth a shit. So from that standpoint,
I mean, you and me are both relationship guys, and I mean that's when you end up sitting with a guy like that, and like you said, there's guys like that all over. When you end up sitting with a guy like that, I usually miss the whole varsity game because I'd rather be in the conversation and watch a game between two varsity teams that I've seen a half dozen times before.
Oh yeah, you get caught up in things. Next thing you know, you're deep in a dialogue over some Star Wars movie or who's got the best chicken wings in Cleveland, and you're like, oh, we're in overtime. It's a good game. So, it's just, those are the type of relationships and the people you get to know. And, it's tough when, those people pass, but, it's life, it's death and taxes. And,
I mean, that guy, Chaz, that guy enjoyed his life, man. That guy, he took he smelled the roses and the fact that, when he wanted to go watch a basketball game, he watched it. And, he definitely lived a life that he enjoyed doing.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. I don't think, he's just a guy that, he did it his way. So from that standpoint, I think you look at, the seasons, that's the funny thing is like it's always a new season, for the fans, the ball really never stops bouncing. For the players it does, but the game's going to keep going on. But, the people you get to share some of the games with might not be as interesting as what they were in the past. So, no, definitely it'll be a different, for guys like Kyle Sanford and Dan and Ron out of Mansfield. And Petros got to know Uncle Jimmy a little bit the last couple of years. And, Stovall sent me a text, because John probably knew him a little bit longer than I did. From John's perspective, he probably didn't have enough time to goof around with Fabiano as much, but he knew some other people that were close to him. So, yeah, I think how it is and what we do and where we go and the people we see. And it isn't so much a guy telling us about a player. It's just sometimes just getting away and enjoying those conversations and those venues and the showcases and the events that we go to. But with that being said, hopefully no one fell asleep on us.
No, I don't think so. I don't. Well, the next topic might even be more boring, which is I want your thoughts. Recently, Jay Morrow has made the move from Covington, Kentucky, up to Dayton, Ohio. Now has a place up there with his wife. And my theory is that he did it so that he can lock up first in line for the hospitality room at Flying to the Hoop.
Well, what's funny is I Google Map Trent Arena the other day, and I saw a tent outside on Google Images, and it was an Ohio State Buckeye.
Was it an Ohio State tent?
It kind of reminded me of something I could see Mario rocking down there on the Olentangy River, and had that like Ted Kaczynski Unabomber look, when he was out in the wilderness. And I'm telling you what, right now, I bet Mario is in line to get, because the first 17 people get actually a large plate. And I know
what did Sonny say? What did Sonny say? Them ribs?
Man, those ribs,
Oh man. He said I go through about 2 of them.
It'll be interesting, especially with some of the upcoming AAU battles that are going to be happening for the recruiting battles down there in Dayton. It's going to be interesting with some of the dynamics and the AAU grassroots wars that I think we're going to get to see front and center down there. So, they'll all
Dayton fits Morrow. Morrow's a small town guy. He likes the country stuff. No, Dayton's a good fit for him. I think that's a good spot. He's in Huber Heights, man. Huber Heights is very nice.
No, yeah, he's gonna make his way. There's a couple nice restaurants over there. He's gonna have a couple good date night restaurants over there in Dayton.
Oh, you're right by Beaver Creek with the outdoor mall that they have, which is tremendous. All types of stuff over there. Absolutely.
Cheesecake Factory's a 7-minute Uber ride for him.
Yeah, that Beaver Creek thing's got everything. They got everything.
He make his way on down at UD campus. We got a real nice Ben and Jerry's. If you want to slide down there for a little chubby hubby ice cream, you never know.
Milano's Pizza is always one I recommend to people in Dayton. But let's talk. Let's talk this then. Speaking of Morrow, we just had Zach on the podcast. I think Zach's episode will come out before this one. I wanted you to talk about what you've been doing this fall, and one thing you did was you hit the 270 hoops fall league on Sunday, and what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was extremely organized. I think it was one of the most organized fall showcase events I've ever been to. I think the 270 crew, I think they've done an outstanding job with the making sure everything's on time. I think from the structure of the age groups, from the jersey numbers being 98% correct, with a couple, it's never going to be 100% correct because kids are coming and going. They've got a couple kids that play football, got a couple kids that miss, got a couple kids that are always jumping teams, whatever it may be. So, you're never going to be 100% correct with your jerseys, but I thought it was pretty damn close. And then, I think from being able to watch, the 23s and the 22s, the freshmen, sophomores in the morning, and then with the invite league being in the middle, being able to knock out, the top, 80 to 100 Columbus prospects, I thought it was great. To me, it was, you're not going to get an unbelievable evaluation, and that's no knock at 270. I don't care if it was ran by 270 or by the NBA camp. Like, it's just based on the setting. Like, you got to watch these kids multiple times, and I know it was week 5 or 6, and that they played together, but it's just still the setting. Like, it's still a showcase setting, and it doesn't have the same structure as you're going to have. That's obviously comes in the season, but no, I thought from, like I said, from a organization standpoint to running on time, I thought the balance of teams was good. Every game or every court that you were at had Division One or Division Two prospects to look at. So yeah, I thought it was really good.
Well, I'm not going to share my thoughts on the event because we did at length with Zach just now. So if you're listening and you want to hear that, listen to the last episode. But one thing I do want to say is this: we saw a lot of good players, a lot of the local Columbus basketball guys. We saw the 270 staff, which is growing. We saw myself, yourself, TJ Petrus. One guy was missing, Columbus basketball figure. I didn't see Kurt Stubbs there.
Well, I think we discussed this. Stubbs, being a man of the cloth and the Sabbath, is not going to miss church for side court Sunday hoops. He's just not going to. So, and I think we've discussed it. The only way you could get him there is maybe on a Thursday night, because Friday night he's going to pick Central football. Saturday, him and Morrow are doubling down on a two-teamer with Ohio State and somebody else.
And then they're going to the country concert after the game. They're going to the Luke Bryan show.
He's got Luke Bryan and Zach Brown, of course. So he's not going to do that. So anytime you're really going to get him is on a Wednesday or Thursday. And that's just probably going to have to be a small invite private open gym somewhere at one of those Nope Villages, facilities. So I don't know. I mean, Stubbs is obviously a guy that, he picks and chooses his battles on where he wants to watch guys. But he's probably right now meeting with, Tuesday night, he's got a couple of real estate agents that he's meeting with, trying to figure out where he can get the next rental. But all joking aside, there was another figure there, and I know he hasn't been around for a while, and I'd like to see him come in just to take some pictures. And I know Morrow knows his name. Morrow, who was the guy that used to take the pictures? He had the photography company. Younger guy.
Oh, that's Chris Leap.
The Leap Dog. He would have. Did you ever get a chance to meet him?
No, I didn't see him the other day. I've absolutely met him. I know the guy would know his name, but I didn't see him up there.
Yeah, I think he's been off the grid for at least 4 to 5 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have back-to-back podcasts with Morrow speaking parts. We did it.
I love it. It's unbelievable. Everybody should drink.
It's like a drinking game. Oh my God, that would be more sober than a first communion party at Stubbs' house.
And I don't know if you ever met this guy. You ever met Joe Diaz?
No, I never met him. I've heard the stories.
Joe Diaz got his state credential pulled. Shout out
Tim Strude.
Don't even want to say his name. And glad you said it. Everybody drink Tim Street. Drink Tim Street. Tim Street gets a drink. So, no, Joe Diaz at the state tournament, and he was kind of a photography stringer for Stovall. And he was this is when John was they were still actually printing the magazine and doing that with Prep Spotlight. And Joe was in the warm-up lines taking pictures on the baseline, and Street lost his mind and basically called, the higher-ups at ESPN or Nike. And that's a Kurt Stubbs story that you'll be able to share, and he knows more of the details with. But Joe Diaz is another guy that you would see sometimes at Flying to the Hoops on 50-50 tickets and run around. So another basketball junkie.
Yeah, this podcast, we're going deep. We got JB from the E, we got Jim Fabiano, we got Joe Diaz, we got them all today. About 4 people are going to get these references, but you know what? I'll be able to listen to this episode and laugh at some point.
Basketball bingo.
Basketball bingo TV. So the thing I want to talk to you about, going back, if we can try and be a little serious here, is and we don't have to go into specifics, but I wanted to talk to you about parents in recruiting. And one thing that's been going on in our group chat recently, because of a couple little things, is we've been discussing the theory of parents in recruiting. When you've got a son who is being recruited, who is a quality player, maybe the parent's happy with the level they're being recruited on. Maybe they think their son is being undervalued. If you Chaz, had a parent or a parent of a player, who was a Division I prospect, what would you say are the issues that you really should focus on that are in the best interest of your family?
Academics. Don't worry about anything else. I mean, obviously you want to worry about playing time, and you want your son to be able to play, because without playing he's not going to get exposure. But, just worry about academics. Put him in the best position to make him marketable for college, and then, to get a scholarship academically, and then everything else will work out from there. Because if the kid is a great student, people will give him the benefit of the doubt, no matter how much of a pain in the ass the parents are. They'll give him the benefit because it'll be like, well, Kyle's a 3.8 student. He's got 26 on the ACT. Mom and dad's a little bit of a, overbearing a little bit. And it's usually one or the other. I hardly ever hear it say, well, both are crazy. It's usually, well, mom's a little loopy. She speaks out. She's a little bit more vocal. She thinks she knows, she thinks she's Duke and not, whatever other level it would be. And the dad's fine. The dad doesn't really care. The dad gets it. You hardly ever hear someone say both parents are crazy. It's unconditional love that they have, and the more that you do it, the more you realize that, it's, they just want the best for their kid. They don't really understand it unless they went through it. Unless they've had other kids go through the recruiting process and they understand it a little bit. And you never truly ever understand it because it's always ever changing. It's the same with college coaches. It's the same with John Brandon taking over Cincinnati. It's the same with Jared Calhoun taking over Youngstown State. They don't know how good the league is until they've been in it for a couple of years. So how in the hell do you expect?
And then you got the social media aspect just magnifies it.
College coaches don't know their conference levels until they've been into it for a couple of years.
Well, let me give you one of mine, which I think academics is obviously a huge one. Mine would be personality fit / trustworthiness of the coaching staff. And I think if you're a parent to a teenager or, the guardian, whoever's helping make the decision, you've been around teenage male basketball players, you should have a pretty good nose for bullshit. And I say that to say that if you're coming in as a college coach, recruiting that kid, the parent can tell who's being genuine and who isn't. And you've got to find a personality that matches, your kid and your family as a whole, because, as much as college coaches say they don't want to deal with parents, you still have a bigger goal for 99.9% of these kids, which is diploma followed by career, not, jump to the NBA. So that to me is one of them, which is forgetting about level, forgetting about name on the front of the shirt and trying to identify personality match.
I think it's a combination of authenticity / agenda. There's a lot of times that maybe a college coach is calling or texting that kid because A, he has a relationship with the high school coach, the AU coach, and it's just an agenda to make them happy because A, the college coach is, half-ass recruiting that kid because the high school coach is using it as leverage to say that he interacts with college coaches so that kid doesn't transfer. The AU coach is doing it because he's made a favor to him, or he's telling the guy that, hey, we've got all these college coaches coming through our program, and we help send kids and place kids and blah, 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 blah. And that's the difference between authenticity and agenda, where at the end of the day, no one can, very few guys are ever really controlled, and the ones that are controlled are NBA lottery picks. So, I think that, I just think it's a very fine line, and I think, I think it's harder than ever to be a high school coach because of the amount of, because it's like you put in all this work and all this time, and maybe you're a guy that doesn't have a reputation of having a lot of Division I players that have played for you, and maybe you just haven't been around it long enough and have that experience, but you're a damn good coach, right? But the problem is you want parents that want all the other things, or maybe someone, you want the unofficial visits, you want the open gym, experience. And the thing is like, it's so hard. I can see from the high school coach's point of view, it's so hard to keep those people happy because they're always seeking that attention, and they need that constant affirmation of affection, and they need that social media status, and they want to keep up with the, everyone else that they feel that they should be on the same level recruiting wise. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, they need to just, you're going to get recruited by the people at the end of the day that think that that's the right level for you. And very few times do you see a high school coach send a kid somewhere that, he trumped everyone else's card because of the relationship. And if he did, the kid probably ends up being a transfer and comes back. I was at college practice yesterday, a MAC school. They have 5 Division I transfers in their rotation of probably 6 or 7 guys. And I'm just like, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, you're here because you went to the wrong level. And I'm not saying that they made the wrong decision. They're still playing. They're still getting education. But, the teams that they went to the first 2 years were terrible. And I looked at the teams, and the majority of those 5 kids that went to those schools, that were higher than this, this program, this mid-major school, it was like they were barely 500 because they were.
Well, they took you. They took you because they couldn't get the guy that they really wanted, is what you normally run into there. But I mean, what you just said kind of brings me to one of my pitfalls that I see with parents, and this especially gets to me when I look at, there's demographics and there's situations where you'll see a kid where, based on, maybe dad isn't around, mom situation, they need a lot of adults in their life to help them with the basketball. But when you look at kids who've got, 2 parents and a lot of support at home, it kills me sometimes when these families just keep growing their circle in terms of who they allow in and making the basketball decision. And I'm all in favor of having, if you're loving parents, of having one person who you say, I really trust this guy. Maybe it's the high school coach, maybe it's the AU coach, in terms of identifying some basketball fits. But at the end of the day, it's about more than that. And I think the parents that allow everyone to get into their circle of telling them how good their son is, or telling them your son's better than this kid, he should be going to this school, that's where you see problems arise more often than not, because these guys, you used the word agendas earlier, these guys are going to have agendas that they're going to say it's about your kid, and to an extent it is, but there's always going to be personal agenda. That's just how human beings work.
Well, I think the problem is it's anything. I'm not going to get all philosophical and Dr. Phil and everything, but it comes down to their personal lives. They've taken on too much in their personal lives too, and they're trying to seek this happiness in this, whatever it may be. They just because your son, let's say your kid's really a low to mid-major kid and he ends up going higher. Maybe he goes to an A10. Maybe he goes to a Big East school. Maybe he goes, maybe he goes a level or two too high. But that's great. Maybe that's great from the standpoint that he's going to Xavier, but he probably should have went to Wright State or wherever it may be. And who are we to say what the level is, right or wrong? Because it's so, it's just our
eye to beholder issue at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the problem that I see. Great. You committed. Are you still going to keep working once you committed? It's like the teams that make the state tournament. It's like you hear college coaches like, we want to make the NCAA tournament or we want to make it a Sweet 16, but just because we got there doesn't mean that that's the end goal. Like, we want to win the damn thing, we don't. It's not just our goal to take, the college scholarship. Like, we want to be a participant once we get to this university. And I think a lot of these people, it's like, oh, the kid got the Division I scholarship, so now it's over. No, now it gets really hard because now this is a business, this is a job. You can obviously see that this is starting to happen in California, Minnesota, Florida, which, I have no idea the route that's going to happen with this pay for likeness shit that's going to occur. But
oh, absolutely, that's a whole other. I intentionally left that off the script today because I don't think it's far enough along to even have a discussion.
No, but like I think like a lot of parents, like, they're just reaching for this happiness, and like we're really less than 1% of these kids are pros. So like, and they're going to change their major 4 or 5 times, right? While you're in college, how many of these kids are actually going to be in pre-med and actually work out, and then they realize, well, I'm just going to get a business or communications degree or whatever it may be. And it's like, what is it that you really want out of this? Do you want to go somewhere, play on a team, get a chance to be in the NCAA tournament, get a solid enough degree that, you can be marketable at 24, 25, you can get a good job and then move on with your life, So it's like, what is your whole purpose for the schools that you want? Like, what are you trying to get out of this? Is it just the name? Because at the end of the day, it's like,
well, you're getting me. Let me cut you off real quick, and you're getting me to exactly what I'm going to ask you, which is so in our industry, and yours is a little bit different in that you're more well known. You have a larger scouting service operation than any of the other guys and the Ohio guys that come on this show, but you also have less of a social media and online presence, but you still get emails, you still get in-person whatevers from parents. So, when parents reach out to you specifically, and whether it's to say, hey, my kid's not getting any love, or whether it's to say, hey, what do you recommend? I mean, what is your overall strategy as a scouting service operator in dealing with parents?
I had a phone call yesterday with a guy who's a pretty powerful high school coach at the parent. Named Steve Turner, who's the head coach at Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C. I talked to Steve about his son. His name's Jared Turner. Jared's going to be a sophomore, plays for him. And we talked about Jared just got offered by George Washington University, right there in D.C. And it's Steve was talking to me about, Chaz, I got to deal with this from the dad's point of view. I got to deal with this from the coach's point of view. It's hard, but the only way that you can justify the offer, or only way that, because people are going to hate, people are going to be, well, he's only getting this offer because he's Steve's son, or he's only, you know what I mean, or
Oh, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, if you're good enough, you'll get what you get, and if you work hard, you'll get what you deserve. And, I'm not saying it's just because, Steve's a high-profile high school coach and whatever it may be in D.C., but, like, if there are people that sometimes have reached out to me or emailed me, a lot of times what happens is this. The younger me, 10 years ago me, would just get into a pissing match with them, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. If there's something like that's just totally asinine, like debating over how tall he is, or the things that you can't, the things that really don't matter, but if it's something drastic, like, he had 32 points and you said he only had 16 or something, okay, fine, you're right, I missed that. Like, I can take fault. I'll reason with you. I'll cool my head down. A lot of times what I like to do is this, is someone randomly emails me about their son, and maybe they're not the level that their parents think they are, or the high school coach thinks they are, the AU coach. I'll just forward that email to what level I think they are and say, hey, like, these people are showing interest in their son, in the prospect, whatever.
Of playing college basketball somewhere.
Yeah, and maybe right now they're not on their, they don't know about you, but I think Cedarville, for instance, Cedarville's got, Pat's done a great job recruiting some guys. And I know that I've sent some, I'm not saying the kids that Pat has committed in this class, but just off the top of my head, if it's a Finley, or if it's a Walsh, or if it was a Fairmont State, or if it's Division IIs, and those schools right there recruit low major guys that are on the bubble. And that's what I would do. If it's a situation where this parent is really adamant and overbearing and always doing it, I'll call them straight up. Because the one thing that most people can't handle is a social conversation with you. And that's the reason why they hide behind text and emailing. Because it's just a way for them to pull, take it all out and let it breathe, and they got time to think about it. But when you call someone and you have an adult conversation with them, then it usually works out better for you. And I think that from our standpoint, when you deal with a parent or someone that is really emotionally involved with that prospect, the best thing that you can do is, before you go into conversation, as pissed off as you are because they've offended you based on something so minute, based on height or weight or the most irrelevant thing that you know doesn't matter to the recruiting process, but they don't know because they're so green, is to A, put yourself in their perspective, B, educate them and say, listen, like, this isn't going to matter. I apologize, but I don't apologize because I'm just letting you know it's not going to matter. We're not trying to deface your son. We're not trying to, it was the same situation I ran into one time with Logan Hill. I went to Toledo where someone had once put Logan Hill. It was another 16-year-old social media recruiting expert out of the East Coast or somewhere. I don't know. The kid probably works at Sonic now. He put, Logan Hill 6'9", and it was one of those days where I probably triple bogeyed a hole and I was pissed off, or Chick-fil-A ran out of nuggets and I was just having a bad day. And I said, he's grown 5 inches, and his mom got all offended, thought I was hurting his recruitment. He still went to Toledo. He spent a couple of years there.
I mean, I've said this 1,000 times on the show here, Chaz. Is you're doing a more of a disservice by lying than you are by telling the truth.
Here's my number one thing that I always go by. If you are lying to my face about the things that I can see, what are you lying to me about the things that I can't see? I can see how tall he is. I can see what hand he is. I can see how much he probably weighs. I can see all those things to myself. But the things behind the scenes, the intangibles, and how much he works, and the things that I don't have access to, like his grades and all the other things. What are you lying to me about that? So it's a red flag. And I'm not saying, I'm not, the people that I've referenced, I'm not saying that they were lying to me, but I think they're just so oversensitive because they have tunnel vision and it's their babies, and they want to make sure that they get the same, they don't want to be picked on, and they want to make sure that they're given the same opportunity as someone else, and, they want the same love and all that. And at the end of the day, I don't give anybody love. How many times do you see me talk about someone going to open gym? How many times you talk about, I never talk about someone getting offered. I had 6 schools text me today saying they received commitments. I didn't even post it. I put it in my database, and then I don't do it anymore. I mean, and people are like, well, why do you have social media and Twitter? And to me, it's really
so you
just
can review
education.
Restaurants.
Yeah, I can review restaurants and,
Right.
post videos of whatever it may be. But no, it's just like you're never going to make everybody happy. And I can only imagine, like, how hard this is for high school coaches and so many of you guys that got to deal with not keeping everybody happy, because how many people ever stick it out? How many people trust the process? I don't know. I mean, so, I think you guys make yourself a lot more, I've never had a public website that has, rankings and profiles and things like that. And it's just something that for me, it's best for me because it's something I know I shouldn't take on, because I know my personality, and I know as much as I would probably snap back at people, I would end up, probably apologizing. But it's just not for me. And for you guys to do it, imagine for all the situations that you've dealt with crazy parents, you've probably helped kids, and people don't know those stories, So
No, absolutely. I mean, there have been frustrating days, and but I'll tell you what, and this is going to sound cheesy, but I mean it sincerely, is that every once in a while you get an email from a parent that'll just say, like, listen, I really appreciate what you wrote, or I'll tell you one, and I don't really know the guy very well, and Jason, maybe you can help me with his first name. What is Matt Alaco's father's name?
Greg Alaco.
Okay, Greg. So I'm sorry I didn't know his first name. So, I don't really know him. I've certainly done stuff on, put his son on my website over the years here and there. And, he's kept me up to date with, here's
But Mark, did
my
you go to
son.
college with his kids? That's a joke. That's a funny one. Keep going.
So he so he reached out to me after they committed to Princeton and just said, hey Corey, thank you for everything you did. We made this decision. This is the best decision for us. We really enjoyed the process, and any help that you might have given us was great. And so if you get a couple of those, that really justifies, it's a means to an end. But no, you're absolutely right in that. And Zach and Jason probably deal with it much more because they're on a day-to-day and a high school level. Where I try and keep it less in terms of the content I post. But yeah, it's tough, and it's easier for the parents or whoever it may be to say my son isn't getting the attention because Corey doesn't write about him. It's easier for them to do that than to say my son isn't getting the attention because this kid's better than him. Or one that I see is, hey, this kid's got 8 offers and my son's got 0 and it's Corey's fault. Well, no, your kid's got a 2.2 GPA. They don't understand. It's easier. Exactly. It's easier to blame us than it is to, have accountability for your own family.
Well, I'll tell you what smart parents do. The bad parents and the dumb parents want to blame and point fingers, but the smart parents is, for you listeners that have a child that's a prospect, if you want to get a guy like myself to like you, this is what you do. If you ever see me or you text me or whatever it may be, or you get a hold of me, you don't say, why don't you like my son? You say, hey, how can I get my son on your radar? What's my son need to do to be this level thing? They have to take a totally different approach to it. They don't need to come in with this negative approach that they already feel defeated or entrenched. They need to come in with the mindset of, how can I befriend this person, and then how can we develop a relationship? And that was kind of the thing that happened with my relationship that I had with Benji Burke, who was Trey Burke's dad. It was never a situation of, because at that time there were so many good guards. I mean, if it was Stevie Taylor, if it was Trey Burke, if it was Samaje, if it was Trayvon Jackson, if it was Travis Trice, if it was Trey Lewis, I'm probably missing. If it was Niles Evans, there's so many other kids that was in that class I can think of.
Aaron Thomas.
Who'd I miss?
Aaron Thomas.
Yeah, I heard of him, right? And so it's just like, those kids were at a young age. I think, and that was kind of the beginning of Twitter. I think I didn't get on Twitter till like 2010, 2011. So that was kind of the beginning of the social media hype at that young age for those guys. And they were kind of thrown into the fire, so to speak, in Ohio. But, there was a lot of competitiveness between those kids. And they all ended up being really good college players. Obviously, Trey at Michigan and Trayvon at Wisconsin and Travis at Michigan State. And Stevie had was on a Sweet 16 team at OU and so forth down the line. Samaje was a pro and, had a cup of coffee in the league, and it's but getting back, when I dealt with a Benji Burke or a Joe Lewis or, whoever else's dad or parent, they understood it, I think, a little bit better than some of these parents now. And maybe they didn't have to deal with the social media and the internet hype. I'm not saying that the internet wasn't there, but I don't think it was so every day in your face that we deal with Twitter now. But I can just remember those parents were a little bit more transparent. They were a little bit more open to criticism, and they would take the fuel and put it into their game. I remember messing with a Brian Sullivan. I remember when Brian was at Upper Arlington, and I would tease him, and I would mess with him when he was a sophomore or junior, and be able to joke with him a little bit, and be able to, give him a little reverse psychology on whatever it may be. And he was a kid, and some of those kids you could get involved with like that, just like you do with your fall leagues in Cincinnati. But, you just got to understand, and I think, like you said earlier, you got to understand those relationships that you build with kids. And at the same time, not all scouts are getting involved with kids.
Well, one thing one thing when you mentioned scouts getting involved with kids, and I think the smartest thing Kurt Stubbs ever said that wasn't about wrestling was he one time told me, he said that, reputation in terms of basketball or anything is extremely easy to get and extremely tough to lose. And what he meant was this. He meant that if your kid is in the fifth grade and some jackass says that he's the best fifth grader in the state of Ohio, or maybe even on a bigger scale than that, and he doesn't get any better, you're never as a parent going to forget what was said about your son, and you're not going to be able to adjust to the fact that, okay, kids caught up with them. And I'm not putting that on the parent because anybody would struggle with that. I'm somewhat putting it on the scout. I'm definitely not putting it on the kid because I think we've talked before, as a kid, we obviously weren't talented enough to ever have to deal with that, but it's not a fair situation to put a kid in. But when you talk about scouts getting involved with families, that's one of the big things that, you always talk about, Chaz, in terms of being a scout, what's your credibility? And that is where we see a huge problem, in my opinion, that leads us to some of these parental issues.
Yeah, I think the one piece of advice that I took from Dave Telp was, he just told me to stay the hell away from him. Let him do your job. Your job is to help the college coaches. I think what happens is when we get involved in running the events, if it's the fall showcases or the AU tournaments, if it's the high school events, if it's the camps, whatever it may be, that, we, from a, I don't know the word right now, but from
you want the kids to do well, and and it benefits you. It benefits you as a scout to have good kids in your area. If I'm in the state of Montana covering that, I'm gonna have a hell of a time starting a college scouting service and being able to make it a profitable venture. But if I'm in Atlanta, I'm gonna have a much easier time if I have the eye for it and can do a good job. So yeah, it behooves you to have the kids do well, and you're gonna take a liking to people, and that's okay. But you just have to do it in a professional manner.
I think you got to be able to, at the end of the day, if you are making a living off of people attending your camps, your events, you got to find a way to be gentle with your honest opinion about their child. And I think the best way to address that is face to face and verbally with them and vocally, instead of them attacking you on a message board or reading your blog or reading your website and then emailing you and they're all juiced up. And this way there you can have a rapport, one-on-one person with them or over the phone with them. And that's something as you get older and you deal with it and you know how to handle and manage those relationships that benefit you. And a lot of times, I'm not going to mention companies, but there are a lot of different scouting companies across the country that it's just a hidden agenda. They're making money off of kids coming to camp. They're putting their levels too high, and it's repeat, rinse, recycle, clean, and it's just a total process that they keep doing, and there's no credibility outside of the line of work that they have a good camp or it's a decent camp or wherever it may be, but they're overhyping kids, but that's all subjective, right? It's at the end of the day. Who are we to say that we're always right on kids? We're not. We all miss. But I think from a credible standpoint, when the college coaches and when you're still doing this after 10 years or however long we've been doing it, and you're still getting paid and and you still can afford a steak in Vegas, I think obviously that proves enough credibility.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we're going to skip a couple of these topics I gave you because we've been already going for a while, but I want to talk to you about two more things, and one of them is your boy Benny Carroll, but I'll get to that. But before we get to Benny, I wanted to talk to you. You referenced it earlier in the podcast, and you reference it all the time when we have talked on this show about advice for young coaches, advice for young trainers, advice for kids, advice for scouts, which is attending practices. If you're going to attend college practices, this is the best time to do it because the college coaches are worried about their team. They're not worried about prepping for an individual opponent. So what have you done this, early this college season, attending practices, and what's the goal behind it, and what are your plans for the remainder of the preseason in doing that?
My goal is to watch a practice at every level, the three Division I levels, high, mid, to low. Try to watch three levels. Snow says there's no mid-major basketball, but that's a whole nother just topic we'll deal with Coach Snow over there in Indianapolis now. But I try to watch, three different levels of Division I practice. For your fans at home or your pod listeners that don't know what that means, high major. A little shout out to your guy down there. You watch Ohio State at the high major, at the mid-major level, whoever it may be, Akron, Kent, whatever, Miami, Ohio.
Plenty of choices up your way for that, right?
Yeah, plenty of that. And then it's a low major level. If it's a Youngstown State, Cleveland State, Northern Kentucky's of the world, whatever, not to offend anybody, but that's what we are, right? And the Division II level, if you can get into an Ashland or a Finley or a Walsh, someone like that. And then Division III, that's the one thing about Ohio, is Ohio has really, really good small college basketball at the Division II and Division III level. In Division III, especially in my area, we've got some really good teams with the Mount Unions and the John Carrolls and, Marietta, if you want to go.
I don't know. I can't tell you I know how Division II basketball works in every part of the country, but I do know this: if you're a good Division II prospect, you're extremely blessed if you live in Ohio, because of not just Ohio Division II basketball, but they're leaving Division II. But you have Bellarmine in Kentucky, you've got quality teams in Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia is tremendous, and they don't have a whole lot of in-state recruiting. So yeah, this is, like you said, great place for Division II, NAIA Division III level talent with a lot of Division I schools in state as well.
But here's the thing that people don't realize: if it's a high school coach or AU coach that's never really gone out, or a parent that's gone out to see these practices, at the Division II level, a really good team, a top 25 team, usually from the 1 through the 4 position are Division I prospects. They're right there on the fence. They by their sophomore year, junior, senior year, a really good top 25 team. If it's a West Liberty, like we said, the Fairmont States, the Bellarmines, Lincoln Memorials, so forth down the line of the Finleys and all those schools, Saginaw, whoever it may be, Grand Valley States of the world. By the time those kids are juniors and seniors, they're loaded mid-major prospects. I mean, when Fairmont State a couple of years ago went and got beat in the Division II national title game, they played, Kent State and got beat at the buzzer. Finley, people forget, but, Morrow's alma mater got beat by Finley Oilers a couple of, this is probably when Morrow was in high school, but Finley beat Ohio State.
2007. I was there. I was actually there for that game.
This is pre Carmen's crew?
Probably pre Beard days.
The year after the Final Four team. Yeah. So yeah, well, it'd have been.
That might have been the year that Finley won the national title too. So,
it was
at the Division II level. You're going to see a lot.
Morrow's already making, because they won the national title. Like, Morrow's got to get his little apology in there.
Yeah, he put it.
Yeah, that was an NIT year. That was a down year.
Asterisk. So. There's an asterisk in that. But no, yeah, if I can see 5 to 6 practices, I like to do that because the game is always changing. Like, the level is always changing. That's what I talked about earlier. Like, how in the hell does a parent know what level a kid is when it changes all the time, especially with the new college coaches aren't asking about rising freshmen or sophomores. Like, that's the thing that these parents they need to understand is, like, no one is offering a freshman. If they are,
even a monstrous change from the last 5 to 7 years in the grad transfer has just changed everything. And we've talked about it.
The other thing is regular transfers now, because now it's like, they say they have a mental illness or something's happened at home, like they're going to give them the waiver because the school doesn't want to deal with a lawsuit. So they're going to get most of them are going to get that waiver to play right away. If not, if it makes it to Jay Billis or Scott Van Pelt, you're getting a waiver. I can tell you that.
I know there was a big one. There was a big one this summer. I don't really follow a whole lot of college football, but I do follow your boy Action Chad Brendel and Harbaugh. Oh, wild man! But Harbaugh at Michigan was given Cincinnati shit about not letting a kid who transferred from there that was trying to get a waiver. I believe it was depression related, but don't quote me. It was something mental like that. And Harbaugh tried to deny his waiver, which ultimately did get denied. And no, he's on the J. Brendel is he's a faster Jay Billis because he was a sprinter, but he's not quite as tall and dapper.
Well, that's another conversation. That's another topic dealing with Brendel. I mean, that I've been searching since probably that day at Spieth's Fieldhouse that he said he went to Marshall to be a sprinter, and I've gone way in the archives. I've looked at. I mean, I've called the OHSAA trying to get state records on his 100-time. I can't find it. So.
I mean, the guy's 4'10". It's going to take him if it takes somebody X amount of steps to run the 50 meters. It's going to take Brendel 3 times that.
I mean, he could be a water bug. You never know, but.
I can't wait to send him this clip. But go ahead.
But no, get out, watch practice. You got to see it. The game is always changing. It's. Like Norman Dale says, the hoop's still 10 feet high, but just, style play, the ball screens, the personnel, what levels these guys are now, what have they improved? That's the one thing that's hard is big guys develop so much later on, and it's trying to see how much better they got, and then it's just trying to see guys that damn, I thought he would have gotten better. Why didn't he get better?
And then it's a great measuring tool for we talked about the other people, whether you're a parent / prospect, whether you're a high school coach, whether you're a scout, as you see in a college basketball practice, the level of attention to detail, you see the competitiveness, and you see the dedication in terms of effort and time that has to be put into it. And if you're smart, you walk away and say, if I'm a scout, I'm saying, does kid A have that in them, in my opinion? If I'm a parent, I'm saying, man, is this really what I want? There's a lot of factors that go into that beyond just trying to learn pure basketball at the practice.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is understanding the parity of athleticism, because everybody can touch the top of the backboard. Everybody's athletic. Everybody scored 20 points in high school. But it's when it comes down to it, can they execute and run the play? Those were some of the things that I picked up on at this most recent practice was some of the guys that were freak athletes, they just couldn't execute. They had no idea how to run the play. And it was practice number 5. Obviously they've got 30 more days or however many more practices they have till the November 5th, 6th, whenever the season tips off to learn those plays. But we're talking about a basic horn set here. We're talking about an entry-level set. So you get to see some of those guys. And I think that's the difference is we get to see a guy play in a 270 fall league, and we get to see him play in November down at my Benny Carroll event, down in Mason. Then we'll get to see him again in some of the events in December, January, and then we'll see him again in April, May, June, all the way through August. And we see him in 4 or 5 different types of settings. But very few times. I mean, do we really, 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 really get to dial in and see his aptitude or IQ? I think what happens is in like a fall setting like we saw on Sunday at 270, we get to see a guy that can make a shot. We get to see a guy that can get to the rim and finish. But, how many times do we get to see him, wait on a down screen, sprint to help, does he hedge the ball screen? Those little things. And that's not really, obviously we try to pick those up But we're just trying to knock out some of the basic things and let that coach figure out what he can.
And you've got a major. I agree. You do have a major. I'll say that you have a major variable there, and that some kids play for Ed Kalo, and some kids play for somebody who isn't Ed Kalo in terms of level of coaching and what they've learned, and different college coaches have different philosophies on if it's better to take a blank canvas or take the guy who's a known commodity. But no, that's great, and that's good. I'm going to end on one thing here, and you just referenced your boy Benny Carroll. I'm fortunate to help him this year, Ohio Valley Hoops Classic. November 29th and 30th, the first 2 days of the high school regular season at Mason Arena. We're going to have a ton of the top teams. We're going to start advertising on this podcast probably next episode. Really, I didn't get a chance to write it today, but we're on air. I'm going to put you on the spot. What do I got to do to get you there?
Well, it is going to be on Black Friday. I think the timing is great from a tip-off perspective. I think I imagine it was your brain and not Benny's that thought of the date, especially the location. I mean, thank God we got out of Hillsborough.
Yeah,
the people there were great.
Benny made a great decision, which was to move it to Mason Arena. And what he found was, the people at Hillsborough, it's not that they don't like basketball, but, I mean, they're down-home people. They wanted to see Hillsborough play Blanchester. They wanted to see Claremont Northeastern play Georgetown. They didn't give a damn about Moeller or, Lutheran East is coming down this year. Carmel, India, they didn't care. So, no, we're doing it at Mason Arena, which is just a beautiful, beautiful arena. And Benny's going to be feeling like a little bit of a city slicker, but, he's pumped, man. He wants you there.
Well, I tell you what, if we can get the RV in there, hey, you tell Chad we got the RV coming in. We'll have the games on there Friday, Saturday for him, and if he's gonna miss Thanksgiving, we'll have Honey Baked Ham for him, and we'll get him on the radio show, and we'll give him a double XL Gildan showcase shirt and a colored program. I mean.
Well, I've got early commitments from Petrus. I've got an early commitment from Mike Roth. Coach Tuck is going to be in there coaching his team at Winton Woods. I got them all, dude. I got them all. Roger will be there, with the sweater.
In the same gym together. You're going to have them in different corners.
God, I just hope I hope Winton Woods scores more than 15 goddamn points. That's all I hope.
I mean, if they don't, they might have to lose their Ocean State sanctioning.
Well, to be honest with you, they're like half their roster plays football, and every year they're nationally competitive in football. So they're probably going to have about half their team if the football season goes the way it's supposed to.
Well, that'll be a good excuse for Tuck. We'll hold that over his head until flying to the hoop. But no, I've already made I've made a pretty good verbal.
It's on verbal commits.
Yeah, I've got a mixtape and an edit that Marlo's going to put together for me for that. I'm going to be both days, Friday, Saturday, because that was the thing with Ben. That was the thing when Benny was down there in God's country, is that I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. And Benny got me down there twice. It's obviously big getting Carl Kramer in there, and Moeller. I think the lineup is obviously juiced up a lot more. It's the best lineup that I've seen in the years that Benny's been doing it. Probably with your help, I imagine. And then
I only got two teams, Jazz. I got Taft and Woodward. The rest of it all goes to Benny. He did a great job. He works on it year round, man. He gets a lot of credit.
I mean, you get Benny on the phone. I mean, you're dealing with a politician now. I mean, he's good, but if Benny really wants me to come out and do something wild, it's going to have to come down to that hospitality room. I mean, it's going to have to be really this is really all I need. I need a table to work at. I need a table to work at, and I need a decent hospitality room. I don't need a lot. I just need, he knows what I need in that hospitality room, and I think he'll come through. I mean, the Ponderosa wings that he was getting down there with the people at Hillsborough were great. I loved that Ponderosa down there had a drive-through. Think about that. Ponderosa.
Oh, it was high level. Well, I'll give you the hard sell on the last thing, and then I'll let you go here. Mason, very affluent neighborhood in Cincinnati. there's gonna be some nice looking moms in yoga pants that are right up your lane, buddy.
Well, I thought you were going to say Grippos. I thought you were going to say free Grippos. I mean, you throw in some graders. If you throw in
Connorman will bring you some. Connorman will bring you some graders.
Connorman is the icing on the cake. That's what I need.
That's all you had to hear. All right, we'll put you on the list. He's on the list. We'll wrap this thing. Go ahead.
You bought your pre-sale ticket yet for this Joker movie that's coming out this weekend?
Not a movie guy. It's all you.
Unbelievable. All right.
Moro's watching game film for whoever Ohio State plays this weekend.
It's Michigan State. Don't worry. We got him.
He's literally the most arrogant fucking fan of all time. I can't imagine. I can't imagine how bad he gets it from like his friends that aren't Ohio State people when they lose. So all right. This has gone off the rails. Chaz, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Looking forward to having you at the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic, Benny Carroll Classic, and we'll probably have you on the show before then. And extremely informative episode. And we're glad to be back podcasting after a month of degenerate behavior.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, guys. For Chaz Wolfe and Jason Morrow, I'm Corey Albertson. That was the Triple Double Podcast. Thanks for listening. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.